Call to order the August 22nd meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I will recognize Councilmember Craig for our ceremonial opening.
Thanks, Mayor. We are eagerly anticipating this weekend's Lazy Days Festival, and I wanted to take the opportunity to encourage attendees to not only visit the great arts displays, but also the nonprofit and community groups who are participating. I'm especially honored to recommend that everyone stop by the Friends of Page Walker booth, which will be located on the front porch of the Page Walker Arts and History Center. Visitors will have the chance to participate in their collaborative community art project and decorate mini gourds to take home, which pays tribute to Cary's history as the gourd capital. Yeah. And so I hope to see you all there. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We now move to adoption of the agenda. There's been a request from the applicant for 22 REZ06 Green Level Church at Mills Farm Road to remove this item from tonight's agenda. It may return to us at a future council meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at recognitions, reports, and presentations part of our agenda. If you're following along, that's item 2. And our first recognition is our town crier, John Webster, and his wife, Mary, from Markham, Canada, one of our sister cities. And we've been to their lovely community, and we're so glad to have them here. Each year he visits, and he helps open Lazy Days. And he's probably one of the most photographed persons in Cary that doesn't live in Cary. But we're so glad to have him with us, and he has a special announcement for us. Mr. Webster.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be the official town crier for Cary. 20 years ago, I was here at Lazy Days and involved in different things, and I happened to lament to the mayor at that time, and if you give me a half an hour, I'll remember who the mayor was at that time.
Ernie McAllister.
That's correct, yes. And I was just nonchalantly saying, you know, it's unfortunate because as I travel around at different places, I cannot say that I am an official town crier in the American Guild of Town Criers because I'm not officially recognized in any place in the United States. And he said, well, we can fix that. And there was a council meeting that afternoon or that evening, and they passed an ordinance and made me the official town crier of Cary, and I've been very honored to be able to do that. And you have the advantage because, you know, in Markham, where I'm from, everybody knows where Markham and a few other places are, and I mentioned I'm the official town crier for Markham and East Gwillimbury and Cary, North Carolina. And they don't care about Markham or Aurora or East Gwillimbury. They Cary? Where is Cary? You know, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about what a wonderful place Cary is. You know, an expert is somebody from out of town with charts and graphs and so forth, and so it allows me to talk more about Cary than you talk about yourselves, because you probably don't realize what a wonderful spot it is here, and I'm not saying that as puffery. It is great. We've been a sister city with Cary for quite a number of years. Markham is a high-tech capital in our area, just as you are the high-tech capital down here in the Triangle, and of course with IBM based in Markham and based here. There was a lot of people from Canada here and a lot of people from here there, and so there was an obvious connection. And through these 20 years, Mary has told me to jot some notes down. I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle, and I'll go on forever if I'm not careful, so this is to try to keep me at track here. We've had a lot of independent businesses back and forth. I know personally I bumped into a fella down here called Mike Brooks, who calls himself Mr. Inside Sales. And I said, wow, I could use some help with that. And so we had a wonderful relationship for quite a number of years. There are a lot of businesses in Cary doing businesses with Canada and conversely, and that all happens because of the concept of sister cities. And while we may not have an actual agreement yet, although we're working on it, it does happen. We are a community of artists, as you are a community of artists. We've had groups from the Cary Art, whatever it's called, the Art Guild, coming to Canada. We have the Fred Varley Art Gallery in Markham. Fred Varley was one of the group of 7, which is a fairly famous group of artists, especially if you happen to be from Markham. And they have sent items down here as well and back and forth. The Markham Concert Band came down here and played concerts along with the Carytown Band, and we're trying to entice them to come up and see us again as well. Municipally, we've done a lot of things. We have come down and to take a look at how you are doing a lot of your stuff. And when I get back up there and tell you what you've done with your downtown park here, they're going to be back down again. I'm sure you've got people from all around the world coming and seeing that park. It's marvelous. But, you know, we've been down here and taking a lot of your ideas and Canadianizing them. And of course, your council was up looking at some of the things we've done with our historic villages and things as well, which is really super. But, you know, the thing that really gets me is the concept of sister cities, where it's world peace is really going to happen with face-to-face integrations and talking to one another and getting to understand each other better. And I feel honored to be able to be a part of coming down here in the council and also trying to promote or help promote Lazy Days Festival. Lazy Days Festival does not need a lot of promoting, but if you're not going there tomorrow or on the weekend, shame on you, because you're really going to miss something. Your worship, somebody coming down from the north with a white beard and a red suit would not be appropriate if I didn't bring a small present. I would like to present this to you. If I tell you what's in it, it kind of gives it away a little bit.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
In there is a piece of artwork from somebody who has taken the concept of the group of seven and continued on with it. And that's not it, but go ahead. Oh, that is it too. I had it in the wrong.
See if I can get it out without breaking it. Ooh, very pretty.
There you are. That's his style of painting with the vibrant colors, very thick, and that has been put onto glass in his style, which is
Nice. Thank you so
similar
much.
to it. Yeah. And then there's another one in there.
Oh, I missed one. There is another one.
Well, of course. And that is a pin, which is very symbolic. We, like most places, are becoming very much aware of our demographics. And that pin shows the top part there. Just got a little closer so I can point it out here. This shows the internet, because we're a high-tech capital. And then, of course, the feathers here because of the indigenous people that were there and how we're welcoming all groups of people and demographics to Markham, including anybody from Cary that would like to come up there.
Awesome.
Thank you. We're not running a bed and breakfast, but we have a big house that my grandfather built in the late 20s, and we've had a lot of people that we've met down here have come up to visit. So you're all welcome, but not all at once. Not all at once. Okay. And I also have a certificate here from Mayor Frank Scarpetti, if I may take a moment and read this and present it to you. Mayor Frank Scarpetti and members of the Markham City Council congratulate Cary on the 48th anniversary of the Lazy Days Arts and Crafts Festival. We extend our congratulations to the town of Cary on the occasion of the 48th annual Lazy Days Festival. We appreciate the significance of this wonderful festival that brings your community together and also provides a valuable platform for the local artists to showcase their talents and creations. We look forward to continuing our collaboration and strengthening of the Sister City relationship as we celebrate this anniversary together, and it's signed and sealed by His Worship Mayor Frank Scarpetti. On behalf of all the people of Markham, I present this to you.
Thank you. And before you get to the loud part of your announcement, I have a proclamation I'd like to read.
Oh, super.
Whereas in 2004, as a result of Cary's sister city's relationships with Markham, Canada, John Webster, who serves as Markham's town crier, became Cary's town crier. And whereas in 2024 marks the 20th anniversary of John Webster's appointment in this honorary role. And whereas Webster, who acts as the town crier, as many as 200-plus events a year, such as parades, inaugural council meetings, weddings, funerals, has won numerous awards. He's an award-winning town crier. And whereas John and his wife, Mary, have graced Cary with their appearances I messed up, I can't read, I'm trying. Perry Webster have graced Cary with appearances wearing their signature 18th century ceremonial attire at special events over these many years, most notably at Cary Lazy Days Arts and Festivals. And I have to say, anybody can stand all day in the heat with that attire on is pretty amazing, just for doing that. Whereas the Websters have worked with Cary's sister cities to foster and maintain connections with Markham, including welcoming a Cary delegation to Canada in 2018. I believe that was your that's the word.
I had to practice it.
And whereas we're proud to welcome back our award-winning town crier and his lovely wife, Mary, to reconnect and celebrate with our community, now therefore I, Harold Weinbrake Jr., Mayor of the town of Cary, North Carolina, on behalf of the entire Cary Town Council, do hereby extend our congratulations to John Webster and encourage him to celebrate, and encourage all to celebrate John's 20th anniversary as Cary's town crier at this year's Lazy Days Arts and Crafts Festival, 22nd day of August, 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now he's going to show you why he's our official town crier.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! My lords, my ladies, all ye in attendance gather round. As the official town crier for the town of Cary, I have an announcement of great importance. I read. It is true, Lazy Days Festival is back. Neither hurricanes nor COVID can stop Lazy Days. This family-oriented, recreational, and cultural community-based event brings the highest quality national and local artists to Cary, where they can interact with the creators of the various art forms. Lazy Days not only provides a positive economic impact in the town of Cary, but also supports arts endeavors throughout the region. But that's not all. Lazy Days is a time to discover who from the best is the very best by visiting the winners of this year's Jerry Miller Award. Of all the places in the world, there is no better place to be than Lazy Days Arts and Crafts Festivals. On behalf of the volunteers and the staff, on behalf of the sponsors, on behalf of the vendors and artists, nay, on behalf of all the people of the town of Cary, I hereby invite each and every one of you to the 48th Lazy Days Arts and Crafts Festival. Come, enjoy, and celebrate. This cry cried aloud this day of August in the year of our Lord 2024, God bless these United States of America. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm honored indeed.
I'm honored to have you here and to be called Your Worship once a year.
3 times.
3 times. We now move to the manager's update. Mr. Stiegel, follow that.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Or
It would be easy to think that the only game in town this weekend is Lazy Days, but that wouldn't be true. On Saturday night, we're having high school football at Wake Med Soccer Park. Cary is partnering with Wake County Schools to host the 2024 high school football kickoff and features 4 of the area's top football teams. Starting at 5 p.m., Holly Springs will host Garner High, followed by our very own Cary High, taking on Broughton at approximately 8 p.m. Tickets are $12 if you buy them tonight or tomorrow, and $18 on Saturday. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stiegel. We now move to the third item on the agenda. It's Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, by calling in, or attending here in person tonight. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments and may speak on any town-related topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that works to your benefit because you get more time to speak at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. We have a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When it turns to a yellow light, that's to remind you that you have 30 seconds remaining. And when it flashes red, your time is expired, and that's the point I will interrupt you. Again, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. I would ask that all of our speakers please be respectful in their comments and direct your comments to the entire council and not an individual. And I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please respect that. Do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or do anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out, and first I will call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 1 written comment and 1 registered speaker. An anonymous individual had complaints about the event traffic at Coca Booth. These comments have been forwarded to our police department. We had 1 registered speaker, Phil Bucanto.
Could you move to your left, please? Thank you.
I have to follow John, huh? First of all, my name is Phil Brucato. So, good evening, members of the Town Council. My name is Phil Brucato, and I represent Hanover Place. We are located behind Trader Joe's on Kildare Farm Road. We are here today to address the transfer of our private street, which measures approximately less than half a mile, to the town of Cary as part of the town's Legacy Private Streets Road program. Hanover Place was established in 1985, and its residents are primarily adults, many are retirees, and who have faithfully paid taxes for the past 40 years. Since 2018, we've been working with the town's transportation department as a pilot for the Legacy Private Streets program. We have been cooperative and provided all the information requested. In turn, the town has expended resources to understand our situation, which, quite frankly, has assisted them in planning their program. So it's been a win-win for both parties, okay? Yet, here we are in 2024, and we do not have a plan. And this is our frustration, why I'm here today, okay? Recently, the town conducted a study of our streets about drainage systems. It should be noted we have not had a flood problem in 40 years since the community was built. This study included conceptual stormwater design with all new pipes and gutters to bring our community up to new construction standards, with an estimated cost to our community of $1.5 million. That represents 30. This is not feasible for us to deal with. Our community shares the same street configuration as other adjacent neighborhoods under the town of Cary's authority today. In fact, last year the town repaved some of those neighborhoods, but the town did not consider it necessary to upgrade them. We do not understand why our community is being held to a different standard. We view ourselves and the town as a team. It has been a great relationship with the town. And we are requesting your leadership, why I'm here, to help move the process forward. We understand the need to review, study, and analyze, and we've done plenty of that, but we cannot understand why it's taken so long, 6 years now, to formally provide us with a plan. The delay is causing uncertainty in the community, and it hinders the board, who I am the HOA president, ability to financially be responsible in our planning process. In conclusion, we are asking the council to make this a priority, to work with the Legacy Private Street Program team to produce a written plan and timeline to formally transfer ownership of our private street to the town of Cary. As always, we are available to discuss this in more detail. We look forward to hearing from you, and I'd like to thank you for your time, and thank you, David.
Thank you.
No additional speakers.
No additional speakers. If you are here in person and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out on any topic that's not a public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, we'll close Public Speaks Out, and we'll move to the consent agenda, which is item 4 on the agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to review consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. On the consent agenda, we have minutes, calling for a public hearing for 22A01 Augusta at 4000 Green Level West Road, adjustment to adopted meeting schedule, correction to amended Fenton Development Agreement, bid award for the old Apex Road 24-inch water line reinforcement. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and that takes us to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first and only public hearing is 19 REZ 25 Piney Plains Multifamily. Principal Planner Aaron Puckett will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning tonight. It will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board and will return to council a few months from now at a future meeting. Ms. Puckett.
Thank you, and good evening, council. This is a request to rezone approximately 31 acres located on Piney Plains Road at Stevens Road. The site is located south of US 1 and west of Walnut Street and the Crossroads area. There are existing residential subdivisions to the west, including portions of Wellington Park, as well as the Wynwood South neighborhood. The recently approved Labano multifamily development is located across Piney Plains to the east. There is also a large regional power line that bisects the site. The area of the site is within an easement, and therefore no structures or trees would be permitted in that central portion of the site. I also want to note that a forthcoming NCDOT interchange project is likely to impact the site. That project will redesign the Crossroads Junction interchange to increase safety and relieve congestion. The Walnut Street eastbound on and off ramps will be closed and relocated to Piney Plains Road. Based on the most current information available from NCDOT, the project area, which is shown in purple on this map, will likely impact the northern portion of this site. Cary's GIS indicates stream buffers along portions of the northern and western property lines, and field determination of such features is required at time of development plan. There are overhead power lines along the site frontage on Piney Plains Road on the right side of this image. Plans for utility installation will be evaluated during development plan review. Piney Plains Road is a 5-lane thoroughfare with existing sidewalk on both sides. And Stevens Road is a 2-lane collector that is presently lacking sidewalks and bike lanes, which would be required by the future cross-section. The site is currently served by Go Triangle Route 305, and Cary Transit staff will work with the applicant to evaluate the location and design for a transit stop during development plan review. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan proposes an extension of the Piney Plains Greenway through the northern portion of the site, which is shown here in the green dashed line. That greenway corridor will ultimately connect the existing greenway segment to the west with the proposed Piney Plains Road street side trail to the east. The site is currently zoned office and institutional on the northeastern portion of the site, and office and institutional conditional use, or ONICU, on the southwestern half. The ONICU portion of the site was rezoned in 2008 and allowed a variety of office and institutional uses with larger buffers and setbacks provided from the adjoining neighborhoods and from Stevens Road. and the applicant proposes to rezone the site to mixed-use district, or MXD, with a preliminary development plan. The preliminary development plan, or PDP, proposes up to 370 multifamily units in the southern half of the site. Buildings 1 through 4 in the southern and eastern areas of the site, shown here, will be larger multifamily buildings which may be as tall as 75 feet. That's probably roughly 6 stories. While the 6 buildings closest to the adjoining residential neighborhoods and more centrally located to the site will be limited to 35 feet in height, so perhaps 2 to 3 stories, with a maximum of 7 units per building. 5% of the multifamily units are proposed to be affordable to renters making 80% of area median income, or AMI, for a period of 30 years. And for reference, that's approximately $97,000 a year for a family of 4. The proposal also includes up to 16 workforce townhouse units in the rear of the site, all of which would be affordable to those at 80% of AMI for 30 years. More details of the layout of this area are not yet known, and no minimum number of units or phasing of this portion of the development has been committed to at this time. A minimum of 31,000 square feet space is proposed to be dispersed throughout the site. At least 5,000 square feet will also be provided in the townhome subdistrict. The applicant also requests a modification to allow decorative retaining walls around SEMs to be up to 10 feet in height, which exceeds the LDO limit of 6 feet when those walls are not visible from a public street. The applicant proposes the removal of 10 champion trees on the site. Staff notes that most of these are in central locations that could make their preservation difficult. However, 12 champion trees are proposed to be preserved. Most of these are within stream buffer areas. Some of these trees, particularly the 2 northernmost trees shown on this map, could be impacted by the forthcoming interchange project. The PDP would meet the LDO requirement for the 100-foot highway corridor buffer along the northeastern boundary of the site, and also proposes a 30-foot Type A buffer along most of the eastern property line, as well as a 30-foot Type A streetscape on Stevens Road and a 50-foot Type A streetscape on Piney Plains Road, except at a pinch point, which is created with the dedication of right-of-way associated with the Lovano project to the south. The applicant proposes to reduce the streetscape to a 10-foot Type C at that location as needed. As noted previously, a large overhead power line easement bisects the site, and the applicant proposes to use this space for parking, thereby requiring a modification to Cary's parking lot tree requirements. As an alternative, they propose to provide shrubs within the parking area and displace trees along the perimeter of the easement as space allows, or otherwise elsewhere on site. The site also proposes modifications to Cary's required greenway connections. As shown on this slide, a greenway segment is shown through the site, as mentioned previously, in the green dashed line, ultimately connecting to Piney Plains Road and future connections on the southeastern corner of the site. The applicant does propose to construct the northern portion of this greenway, routing it closer to the center of the site to avoid conflicts with the future interchange project, which is anticipated to impact the purple area, which is shown again on this map. The applicant then proposes connecting the off-street greenway to an internal street side trail. Staff notes that the inclusion of the street side trail for a portion of the development is a beneficial enhancement to the 5-foot sidewalk that is otherwise required. However, the applicant also proposes a modification in order to not dedicate the LDO required greenway easement along the western property line, eastern property line, and instead proposes an easement stubbing to the future interchange, which would create a permanent gap in the planned greenway network for this area. There was a traffic study completed for this rezoning, and the applicant has committed to improvements at site access points from Piney Plains Road and Stevens Road. The applicant will also extend Putney Drive into the site, as is required by Cary's LDO. The applicant has also committed to a signal warrant and installation of the signal, if warranted, at the intersection of Stevens Road and Piney Plains. A preliminary analysis against the Imagine Cary Community Plan found that policies in multiple chapters apply. I first want to note that this I first want to note this site's unique location, which is on the border of a destination center and a traditional neighborhood. The SHAPE chapter of the Imagine Cary Community Plan notes that future growth framework categories are not intended to provide precise parcel-level guidance, and particularly for sites located on the boundaries between these development categories, the edges of a particular development category are not rigid lines, but may be interpreted in light of other relevant policies or particular site circumstances. In this case, staff interpreted this imprecise line could be used to allow the applicant to extend the mixed-use overlay district and utilize the tool of MXD rezoning for increased flexibility. Staff used the destination center guidance to evaluate this rezoning while still giving consideration to the important transition to the adjacent traditional neighborhood. Regarding the LIVE chapter, the rezoning does provide smaller housing types that could help support housing choice. With the majority of existing housing in the immediate vicinity being multifamily, staff notes that a greater commitment to townhouses could help with this policy, along with the transitions policy that will be discussed later. A variety of housing types, particularly those other than detached dwellings, are supported in destination centers, but a more modest variety is encouraged within traditional neighborhoods. Residential infill can be supported as long as context-sensitive transitions are considered, which can include density, form, height, buffers, or other strategies. In terms of the affordable housing policy, the site could include up to 16 affordable townhouses, along with at least 5% of the multifamily units, or approximately 19 units if the maximum build-out is achieved, offered to those making 80% or less of AMI for a period of 30 years. Greater assurance as to the phasing of the townhouse pod could even better support this policy. The related work chapter policy referencing the importance of diverse housing options applies as well. And regarding the engaged chapter, while the PDP proposes to construct a portion of greenway through the site, as I noted, the proposed greenway easement stubbing to the future interchange breaks a planned greenway connection in this area. Commitment to dedication of an easement as shown on the eastern property line would better meet this policy. As proposed, the PDP would not fully meet engaged chapter goals. The SHAPE chapter encourages the most intense development in destination centers. At the same time, that intensity should transition down across the site in recognition of the location on the edge of a traditional neighborhood. Commitments to excess gathering space and LDO-required buffers, along with some champion tree preservation, can help speak to the aesthetics and development quality of the site. However, the parking area underneath an easement negates the LDO-required shade trees. SHAPE Policy 6 outlines a number of methods for providing transitions to adjacent development. Form transitions, for example, could include stepping down in terms of building massing or height, and in this case, the PDP does propose smaller multifamily buildings closest to the existing residential neighborhood to the southwest. These buildings will be limited to a maximum of 7 units each and 35 feet in height for a more townhouse-style form, although the use would be multifamily. These smaller buildings can help facilitate a form transition. The exception, however, is a larger multifamily building that fronts Stevens Road in close proximity to the Wynwood South neighborhood, which does make the form transition somewhat challenging at that location. The use of townhouses between the existing detached residential development and multifamily buildings on this site could create a more reasonable use transition than multifamily dwellings alone, although some of the form commitments noted previously may help with this. Buffer transitions focus on separating development with existing vegetation or planted areas, and the PDP proposes a 30-foot wide Type A buffer where directly adjacent to residential development, which is the LDO requirement. This slide indicates how the site is split across the 2 future growth framework designations. As I noted earlier, this line is meant to be somewhat imprecise, but is shared here as a guideline for how transitions might be considered across the site. The future growth framework designation of traditional neighborhood notes that single-unit residential uses are most appropriate, but multifamily can be appropriate as an incidental use, and in general, these areas encourage a moderate mix of housing. This site transitions from a traditional neighborhood directly to a destination center, which supports much greater development intensities. Due to the location on the edge of these 2 areas, a more intense development could be appropriate as long as context-sensitive transitions are made, such as building height or massing, housing type and density, or buffers. In addition, the Destination Center designation notes a number of considerations for development. These include an emphasis on vertical mixing of uses, although horizontal mixing within the overall center can also be appropriate. An active pedestrian realm with buildings fronting streets, a large share of parking within structures, buildings of 3 to 7 stories, a well-defined and interconnected street and pedestrian network, and multiple gathering spaces. The PDP proposes buildings up to 75 feet tall, including some buildings of the site, where smaller buildings would be better supported. Buildings have been oriented to front Piney Plains Road, as encouraged in these destination centers, and significant gathering space is proposed. However, no structured parking is offered, and the large surface parking areas appear to impede the ability to make a required greenway connection and limit site design options that might better facilitate transitions. Removal of the greenway connection is also in contrast to the destination center focus on the importance of pedestrian connections, although a portion of the greenway and an internal street side trail are provided. Thus, it appears the destination center guidance is only partially met. The traditional neighborhood guidance may also only be partially met, where the well-buffered townhouses in the rear of the site could transition well to nearby detached dwellings. It is less clear that the multifamily development has fully considered transitions to these areas. Staff mail public hearing notification to property owners within 800 feet of the subject site, which exceeds the state's and LDO's requirements. A neighborhood meeting was held in January of 2020. A number of questions and concerns were raised, including concerns about the height, density, and use of the site's connection to Putney Drive, concerns around drainage and tree removal, and questions about the greenway connections. Given the length of time since this initial neighborhood meeting, the applicant held a second neighborhood meeting in February of this year. Concerns voiced were similar to those shared at the initial meeting. Staff has received continuous feedback from citizens since the time of the neighborhood meeting earlier this year, voicing similar concerns about the transitions from existing neighborhoods to this more intense development. We also received some comments in support of the development due to the affordable housing conditions. This concludes my presentation. Jason Barron, the applicant's representative, is here to provide comments, and following the public hearing, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. Mr. Barron.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group, here on behalf of the applicant in this case. And your eyes do not deceive you. This is a 2019 zoning application. It suffered significant delays associated with the DOT changes to US 1 that were rolled out shortly after application was made. And I think this is the last of my zoning cases that suffered delays associated with the pandemic and the shutdown that happened in 2020. Aaron has done a fantastic job of outlining the details of the application, so I'm going to highlight what I believe are kind of the salient points associated with this particular proposal. First, I want to talk about density. This is 12.5 units to the acre. As you all are familiar, there are plenty of multifamily applications that are coming through the town right now that far exceed 12.5 units to the acre. We've seen 20, we've seen 25. 12.5 we believe is a reasonable density for this location, and it's reflective of the use of the site that's being put to it. There's multiple products that are being employed on the site. Second, it's a destination center. This is where we want the highest and most intense uses, and recognizing that transitions are appropriate, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But this is where we envision density to be located, again, recognizing that this is not on the higher end of multifamily densities that we're seeing every day. Third, as was mentioned, there's a Cary transit stop planned in front of the site, and my client looks forward to working with the transit staff to locate a bus stop out in front of the site. As you all are aware, this has great proximity to Crossroads, to Centrum, to South Hills. Lots of exciting things happening in this particular destination center that we believe make this type of product in this location the right type of product in this location. There's existing sidewalk already on the Piney Plains, and so the access to services is going to be very, very good for this site. And then finally, with respect to the location itself, as was noted, this is going to be at the Walnut Street and US 1 intersection. That intersection is going away, and it is now going to be the Piney Plains and US 1 intersection. That dramatically changes the character of this site. Right now, when you drive down Piney Plains, it kind of feels like it's just a site off of the side of the road. You have to pass by the hotel and the self-storage. You have to drive all the way up to Dillard or Walnut and take a left. All of that changes when DOT moves forward with their project. And I think that's very, very important with respect to the character of the area, the type of this site this is, and what should go on a site that's going to be located at a heavily traveled major intersection off of US 1 and 64. With respect to transitions and traffic mitigations, we believe we do have appropriate transitions. We've got multiple different types of uses. We have located the highest buildings and the most intense portions of the use up along the public rights of way and provided for 2-story, 35-foot tall 2-story buildings immediately adjacent to the neighborhood on the apartment side. And that has been intentional. When this site originally started back in 2019, the plan was for apartments over the entirety of the site. And so they were essentially all 4-story buildings everywhere you looked. My client refined those plans based upon a lot of feedback that has been provided throughout this process and reduced the height of the buildings immediately next to the community that exists today. Additionally, they changed the style of that product immediately adjacent to the neighborhood. Those are not going to be stacked multifamily buildings adjacent to the neighborhood. Those are going to be essentially side by side. It's going to look and feel like townhomes. And so we believe we are providing effective transitions for a product at a density that is appropriate for this area, recognizing a portion of the site is clearly in the destination center and a portion is on the fringe of the destination center. With respect to traffic calming and traffic mitigations, I would note a couple of things. First, my client took it upon themselves to work with the staff to provide for a traffic circle in the middle of the site that essentially we believe traffic as it's moving in and out of Putney Drive. Second, the orange line that you see there leaving the traffic circle heading east and then out to Stevens Road, that's a street. That is designed as a street. And originally the plan was to have that just be an access drive. It would be a driveway just kind of going off to Stevens Road. We worked with the staff, and that is designed as a street in an effort to reduce the likelihood that our residents will be driving through the existing community. I would venture to guess at the time of full development, the vast majority of people that will be using that public street that we're building and will be passing into the existing neighborhood will be people that live in the existing neighborhood. I don't believe the vast majority of them will be the residents of this community, and that has been intentional. And third, as was mentioned, we've performed a traffic study. We are mitigating for traffic at our access points, but also have committed to putting in a signal at Stevens Road and Piney Plains when and if warranted. I do want to touch a little bit on the Greenway. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, and I typically don't do deep dives on this. We worked very hard trying to figure out how to fit the Greenway. The current configuration of the Greenway, as shown on the Parks and Rec Master Plan, shows it conflicting with what we know today where the US 1 intersection is going to go. And so what we have done, we believe, is appropriate because we're picking up the Greenway at its current location, we're winding it around the townhomes adjacent to the environmentally sensitive areas, and then we're taking it out to a street side trail, 10-foot wide street side trail. We see these linkages in the town all of the time. And so the difference in the Greenway kind of traversing the eastern portion of the site or the northern portion of the site versus where we're showing it, we believe is very minimal. It's only a couple hundred feet of stretch. I don't believe that the character of this area, of this particular Greenway, is going to be compromised with the modification that we're asking in order to accommodate this design. So, last but not least, housing affordability. We talk about it all the time, and we talk about it because the citizens talk about it. And you've heard me speak here about the importance of a multitude of factors and how we tackle the affordability challenge. And one of those is supply. Supply is very important. We're bringing supply as part of this case. One of those is via conditions. Conditions related to the percentage of AMI for renters who are going to be in units like this. We're tackling it that way. And last but certainly not least, my client has a signed LOI with Habitat to donate the back portion of the site to Habitat so Habitat can build townhomes on that portion of the site. And so what that creates, in my opinion, is the first of its kind, not requiring public money, not requiring the town to spend any money to create a true mixed income opportunity in the town that the private development community is delivering. And so what you could have is somebody at 80% rental AMI moving into the apartments, moving up to the 100% rental mark, moving into a Habitat home after they've generated the equity sufficient to be able to do that, and then potentially moving into the neighborhood next door. It is a tremendous opportunity to create progress in place for people to build equity and an opportunity to build home ownership. And I don't think that can be lost in this discussion. And I want to go back to, there were questions related to transitions and the Greenway. Those items, we're asking for a little bit of relief on some of those things in order to make this affordable housing opportunity happen. And in my experience, the reason why housing affordability often dies on the editing room floor is because you have an ordinance that's one size fits all, and it doesn't necessarily lend itself to dealing with the market pressures associated with the cost of real estate. So with that, we recognize this is just the public hearing. We'll be back here in a few months, and hopefully we'll have your support, and we look forward to continuing to work with the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. So now it's time for the public hearing for 19 REZ 25 Piney Plains multifamily, Piney Plains multifamily. And I'm going to call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers or call-in speakers.
We had 22 written comments and 6 registered speakers. 19 people submitted comments either in opposition to or with concerns regarding the proposed rezoning, and 3 people submitted comments in support of the proposed rezoning. Our first speaker is a call-in speaker, Gene Rooney.
Mr. Rooney, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay. My name is Gene Rooney, and my wife and I live at 37 Putney Drive in the Wynwood South community. I'd like to first thank the City Council for allowing me this time at this meeting. We have lived here for 5 years, and we've also participated in the original neighborhood meeting on January 8th of 2020, and the latest meeting, which was held on 2/7/24. These meetings were very well attended by our community and neighboring communities, and they were all very consistent with their objections. Some of these concerns are as follows. Quality of life for the 42 home bedroom community, which we call Wynwood South. Increased traffic during construction and much so after construction. Increased density to this project and other projects which will change the personality of the immediate region. Continued removal of canopy in exchange for increased density, excessive water runoff impact, and impact to the current real estate value. So these are just kind of a couple of the high level. I'm sure some of the future following speakers will get into a lot more detail. I also wanted to talk about some consistent concern that we've had from the Morningstar's dismissive attitude towards our concern. In November of 2020, the developer accessed the site, potential site, via Putney Drive to collect soil samples. This was done without coordination with the town of Cary. The notice for the second neighborhood meeting was provided less than 2 weeks' notice. The notice had typos related to during the meeting. It referenced Holly Springs versus Cary, which led to some confusion. And the image of the proposal provided was printed so small and blurry, it was hard to read. On the call on February 7th neighborhood meeting, it was stated that what we were seeing and what we were being told was the final project, and it was exactly what we were going to get. We also had to badger these people to formally answer all of our questions. Most notably, the applicant took over a month to send out notes from the neighborhood meeting after several residents repeatedly emailed for status updates. The traffic study, which was a topic of interest in both the first and second neighborhood meeting, was not provided until March 27th of 2024, despite it seemingly being concluded in May of 2022. So that's kind of just some issues we had with the communication and the, I'll say, professionalism of how we were dealt with by Morningstar. So I hope you listen to the concerns you hear tonight. And remember, we all made a long-term commitment to Cary, and for your leadership. We hope to see that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll start with our in-person speakers, our first one being Phil Welch.
Good. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Phil Welch. I live at 1471 Big Leaf Loop in Apex. I'm a member of the Western Region CAC Affordable Housing Action Group. That's a mouthful. And its advocacy team. The Western Region includes Cary, Apex, and Morrisville. I've also been trained as a Habitat advocacy ambassador to speak up for affordable homes in Wake County. I also chair the Apex Housing Advisory Board. However, I'm speaking tonight as an informed and concerned citizen. I am not speaking as a representative of any of these groups. My comments are on the proposed rezoning for the Piney Plains multifamily development, 19-REZ-25. My main concern is that enough affordable homes are provided in each of our towns at the appropriate prices so that our essential workers have the opportunity to be our neighbors. So I looked at the average apartment rents in Cary and how affordable they are to various essential workers. On the attached spreadsheet, and I apologize to the audience that I didn't have enough to hand around, hopefully they'll be in the minutes for the meeting. The upper table shows that the average rents for apartments in Cary for studio, one-bedroom, two-bedroom, and three-bedroom apartments as of this month. It also estimates the minimum annual household income required to afford the average apartment. And this is based on the HUD guideline of spending no more than 30% of household income for rent plus utilities. And that income is on the far right column in the upper table. The lower table comes from a report presented to Apex's Housing Advisory Board in December of last year by the UNC School of Government's Development Finance Initiative. The report shows average wages for various occupations in Wake County, including healthcare support, such as home health aides, entry-level K-5 teachers, construction workers, and police officers. If we look at these two tables together, we see that the wages of 3 full-time healthcare support workers would be required to rent an average studio apartment in Cary without spending more than 30% of their household income. Similarly, the wages of 2 construction workers could pay for either a typical studio or one-bedroom apartment without exceeding 30% of their household income. A single police officer with about $67,000 in annual income would only be able to afford a studio or one-bedroom apartment without going over 30% of his or her income. In order for families with children to afford 2 or 3-bedroom apartments in Cary, 2 or more essential workers would need to work full-time in each household. I'm happy to hear that the developer of Piney Plains is offering 5% of the 370 rental flats, approximately 19, scattered across the multifamily buildings as affordable for households up to 80% of area median income for 30 years. In addition, land will be donated to Habitat Wake to build up to 16 affordable for-sale homes. Together, approximately 35 affordable homes will mean 9% of the development will be affordable at 80% of the area median income. 9% affordable homes in new developments is definitely a step in the right direction. However, I believe that towns such as Cary and Apex need 15 to 20% of new affordable rental and for sale homes at price points lower than 80% of AMI. This is the only way we'll have a chance to close the huge gap in affordable homes here in Cary and neighboring Apex and Morrisville for our essential workers. I want to end on a positive note. More mixed income developments, such as the Laurel Street apartments located next to the East Cary Middle School, are needed to provide opportunities for our essential workers to live in or close to the towns where they work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is James Center. Followed by Alan Thomas.
Hi, my name is Nancy Center. This is my husband, James Center, and we live on Stevens Road for the last 34 years. There is a lot of traffic at the intersection of Piney Plains Road and Stevens Road. The 3 lanes at the intersection of Stevens Road is very dangerous. There's only enough room for 2 cars at the intersection before the lanes narrow just prior to the Wynwood South. If a second car gets in that turning lane, then the oncoming traffic on Stevens Road has to stop and ride on the grassy edge of the road or to get onto Stevens Road. There's been multiple intersection, especially traffic on Piney Plains, has to share a turning lane with the Logic Crossroads, and the traffic going onto Stevens Road just before the intersection, there's a slight hill that reduces the visibility of oncoming traffic. And you have to wait to the last minute to get in the turning lane on Stevens Road to make sure no one already entered the turning lane prematurely to turn in the Logic Crossroads. This leads to a very dangerous situation for head-on collisions. The school bus stop at this intersection is really bad because parents line up their cars on Stevens Road leading up to the intersection while waiting for the school bus. I've seen many incidents where parents and children walking into the middle of the road to get to the bus and the car's doors suddenly open in front of you. The volume of fast-paced traffic on Piney Plains with no stoplights makes it a huge challenge to get in or out of Stevens Road. There are no sidewalks at the beginning of Stevens Road. The sidewalks start at Wynwood South and Prestwick, and then a few hundred yards after Wynwood South until you get to Forest Park. This makes it very difficult and dangerous for people to walk, and there are a lot of people walking with their families and dogs. Also, this is a challenge for drivers as people are walking on the road because there's disconnected sidewalks with a curve in the road with minimum visibility. They walk in the middle of the road, which is a hazard. Bike trails are very disconnected, therefore they're not useful due to the old and new infrastructure not being compatible. The problem with the development as we see it is the traffic the existing traffic is a mess at the intersection of Piney Plains and Stevens Road. It will be much, much worse if you're planning to add another 370 multifamily dwellings, 16 townhouses, and mixed-use businesses. This is in addition to the other development just across the street on Piney Plains that will also bring hundreds of new homes and businesses to the same area. Foot traffic and crime will increase the number of people in the area. Crime will likely increase. We've already seen an increase in crime in our area and increased car break-ins. Environmental impact. The wetlands established by the Army Corps of Engineers on this property is very important to protect the surrounding homes from flooding and protect the natural environment. The increased rainwater runoff will have adverse effect on the inland wetlands, the pollutants from the parking lots and other human sources leak into the waterway. Disjointed neighborhoods. The new development of Wynwood South and Prestwick on Stevens Road did not have a plan to adequately bring together the old roads with the wider roads, bike trails, and sidewalks for the new neighborhoods. This left the old and the new neighborhoods very disjointed and not people-friendly. I'm afraid with the new proposal zoning and the development, it will even be worse than ever. We propose that you do not approve the rezoning and leave it as office and institutional. There's more than enough high-density housing in this area. The Logic Crossroad has greater than 460 units. The new development currently under construction across the street from this proposed rezoning will have greater than 300 units. Piney Plains, Prestwick, Windward South, and Forest Park established in the last few years, and now this proposed land of 370 multifamily dwellings and 16 houses and mixed-use businesses will be too dense for this area. If zoning is improved, it will increase overall traffic, which will have a negative impact on traffic accidents, school bus safety. Increased population density will increase foot traffic and crime, have a significant impact on environment, and we further the impact of disjointed neighborhoods, increase the burden on our area schools. Thank you, and I'll let my husband say a few words.
Nobody said much about the wetlands on that property. I haven't heard anybody mention it, but it's a huge wetlands on that property. The runoff and stuff from building the houses is going to ruin it. I'm for staying with it like it is, occupational and institutional, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alan Thomas. Followed by Joshua Van Middlesworth.
Good evening, Cary Town Council. Thank you for providing us this time to give feedback tonight. I'm here to advocate that instead of high-density multifamily units, 19 Res 25 focus more on transitional residential with lower-density townhomes and condominiums. 19 Res 25, as you saw, is clearly going to be cut off from the Crossroads Destination Center by Piney Plains and the soon-to-be highway access ramp. There are already a plethora of high-density multifamily units on the east side of Piney Plains, including one in development. What this area needs is more affordable homes that people can own. People want to own homes in this location. Opinions on the Destination Center access aside, and that was my opinion, the current rezoning proposal, which includes large multifamily units on the traditional neighborhood side of the parcel, does not align with the traditional neighborhood expectations and the Cary Community Plan's policies. Rezoning the area to transitional residential with lower density townhomes or condominiums better aligns with the traditional neighborhood designation and supports the diverse housing options and neighborhood integration emphasized by the Cary Community's Plan's Live and Shape policies. I'd like to call attention to two of these key policies, the first being the Live Policy 2, which, as you're probably aware, emphasizes diverse housing options, including a range of price points to accommodate young professionals, first-time home buyers, those looking to get into the housing market. The current proposal, which focuses on multifamily units, does not align with this policy's intent for permanent purchasable residents. Again, people want to own homes in this area. Housing, including the affordable condominiums found in Wellington, are on the markets for only days before going under contract. The parcel being discussed provides another ample location to provide housing options at a price point that people can afford. People want to own homes here, not rent. We know there is a housing ownership problem for those who can afford it. Renting does not help that. Renting traps you from being able to own that. Providing housing that people can buy is how you can help solve the problem of affordable housing ownership. Next, let's discuss Live Policy 3. As you are aware, this promotes expanding housing options in various neighborhoods. In this area, 19 Res 25, townhomes comprise only 3% of the housing within a mile radius of this parcel of land, compared to multifamily units, which are already 63% of the housing. An alternative proposal featuring townhomes and or condominiums would be better diversify the local housing stock around here. I want to also note that the proposal conflicts with Policy 3's examples, particularly regarding the integration of multifamily units with single-family neighborhoods. The policy identifies Lockmere, Kildare Farms, and Cary Park as examples of the pattern of diverse housing mixes. When looking at these examples, I'd urge the council to consider the orientation and proximity of multi-housing and mixed zoning districts in relation to these example communities. It should be noted, for example, that Lockmere does not contain any mixed zoning districts, and there are no cases where the roads for nearby multifamily housing, the Audubon Park Apartments, Crescent Arbor Apartment Homes, and Amberwood at Lockmere connect directly to the roads that single-family houses are sitting on. We know the town council has to evaluate the proposal against the Cary Community Plan. We just hope it's clear that multi-family units are not the best fit for Piney Plains, and that development should focus on lower density townhomes and condominiums that people can buy at an affordable price. People want to own homes at this location. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Could you repeat your name for us?
Oh, sorry, I'm Alan Thomas.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joshua Van Middlesworth, followed by Ruth Merkel.
Good evening. I'm Joshua Van Middlesworth. Thanks for having us here, council members and your worship. I'd like to talk again about the proposed development here, and I'd like to basically focus on the existing forest that's there right now. I'd like to focus on 3 main points. First, the urban heat effect that is felt when there's no trees there. Our tree canopy plays a crucial role in reducing the heat that we feel all during our summer, right? Trees provide shade and release water vapor, cooling our streets and buildings naturally. By removing these trees, we're essentially creating a heat sink. Imagine if you were to park in that parking lot. You go out there at noon or 2 o'clock to go to work someday. How hot is your car going to be in June? There's no trees there, right? Secondly, noise pollution. Trees act as natural noise barriers, absorbing and deflecting sound waves, creating more peaceful environments for residents. Replacing them with parking lots is definitely going to increase the noise pollution there. There is a marked difference now just between winter and summer between the noise amount that you get off US 1 there. They're proposing to take down most of those trees and put basically people right on the off-ramp and right on US 1. I just hope they're aware of that. Are they going to call it inside weight or something like that so that they're aware that they're living right next to a freeway? Thirdly, and most critically, stormwater management. This place is basically a wetland, right? These trees are essential for managing the runoff. During our last hurricane event that we had, or whatever that was, 3 weeks ago, I'm a bit of a weather nerd, so I have a weather station. We got 5 inches of rain over about 12 hours there. That parking lot alone is just going to create a huge amount of impermeable surface that is not impermeable surface there now. That's going to run directly into that townhome that's supposed to be going to be the affordable housing area or the habitat home. I just hope we're not putting those people in a floodplain because they can't find anything better to do with that area. Proposed development with larger parking lots is going to exacerbate this runoff. And furthermore, the proposed directly contradicts with the goals set forth with Cary's urban forest management plan for 2023 to 2020. This comprehensive plan emphasizes the importance of preserving and expanding our urban forests. By approving this development as it stands, we'd be undermining our own long-term environmental strategy and specifically and the significant effort that went into creating it. If you look at the map, this is one of the last large sections of forest on that side of Cary. It provides a corridor for wildlife that goes all the way from Kildare Farm Road to Piney Plains. I know that easement doesn't seem like much, right? But there are bushes underneath there, there's grassland. We see deer, there's a family of river otter that actually go up and down those streams right there that my daughters enjoy looking at, right? Losing this is going to significantly impact the wildlife in that area. It used to be able to get all the way to Macedonia Lake, right, if it crossed Piney Plains Road. We're not only cutting off people from accessing that, we're really cutting off the wildlife in Cary by removing this forest. I would just urge the council to really reconsider this rezoning application and make sure that we're maintaining our forest, right? We're Cary. We have a great forest. We have great trees. Let's try to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ruth Merkel.
Can you all hear me? Okay, yes. Good evening, I'm Ruth Merkel, and I'm a resident of Wellington Park, a community down the road from the Wynwood South neighborhood and this proposed development. Since I moved to Cary in 1988, I have been a strong advocate for slow and responsible growth in Cary. But I'm also concerned that Cary is becoming too expensive to live in. I believe everyone who wants to work, who works here or moved here to be with their kids or grandkids should be able to live here. The main reason I'm speaking here tonight is because Alliance Residential has offered to donate some of the land to Habitat for Humanity. For several years now, I have volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. The homes I have worked on for Habitat have been built with the same specifications and regulations as all homes being built in Wake County. They are also made to fit in with the neighborhoods. And to my knowledge, no communities where Habitat houses were built has complained about the homes or their inhabitants. Like most of the people here tonight, I would prefer that all the proposed buildings be single-family homes or townhomes, but I also know that not everyone who moves to Cary is ready to buy or can even afford to buy a home. An apartment or condo may be their only option. We have condos in Wellington Ridge and several apartment complexes nearby, and I haven't heard anyone complain about them being there. Even the Wellington Park HOA has agreed to let a developer build several townhomes in our community. Cary has become a very popular place to live. Let's welcome people rather than turn them away because they can't afford to live here. Even the town of Cary and members of members of the town council, recognized the need for more affordable housing when you approved the 2024-2025 Cary Housing and CDBG Annual Action Draft Plan. So let me ask, don't we want our children's daycare providers, our teachers and other school employees, our firefighters and police officers, and even the workers who bag the groceries at our Lowe's grocery store? Don't we want them to be able to live in safe, secure, and affordable housing? Sadly, if they can't afford to rent or buy a home here, many businesses in Cary may actually close down because they can't get the help they need to stay open. Franklin Roosevelt once said that the test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. I hope and pray that whatever alliance decides to build, that they work with Wynwood South and other neighbors, including Wellington Park, where I am from. They also work with Habitat for Humanity and even the town of Cary to build attractive, affordable housing that preserves and protects our trees and greenways, our neighborhoods, and our way of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Gentry.
Mayor, council members, all assembled, thank you for this opportunity. I am Mary Gentry and have been a North Carolina resident for the past 18 years, 9 of which have been at Weather Ridge Lane, a senior citizen income-based residence here in Cary. I'm a minister partner at the Fountain of Raleigh Fellowship located in Raleigh, North Carolina, humbly standing before you as a resident of Cary on today, in support of the Piney Plains Affordable Housing Development. Posted information on websites for Cary Township and Cary Park's mission statement are messages of inclusivity and collaboration, indicative as a place where everyone is welcome. In 2022, Cary was noted as being an affordable town where where everyone is welcome. And affordability to live in Cary is available. However, As you know, the township is growing daily. Thus, too, is the need to consider the current status of future accommodations of expected residents regarding available affordable housing. In January 2024, I served on the Cary United Methodist Church Community MLK Event Committee. The theme is Building Better Tomorrows. A question asked during strategic meetings was, "What do you love about Cary?" My response then holds true on this day: diversity and inclusion. Residing in a senior citizen income-based apartment has afforded me an opportunity to call Cary home. It's wonderful to have options and goal-oriented choices where one works, plays, and thrives. The who, what, when, and where for those with financial limitations is based upon individual goals of viable, affordable housing. In appreciation of this platform, it is an honor to be a fellow resident included among those who know that every resident in this great Cary Township located in North Carolina can live, work, and play based upon affordability opportunities. As such, I am requesting your support for the affordable housing residential development located at Piney Plains, allowing everyone's dreams an opportunity to strive as their reality in Cary. As a resident where affordability to live, work, and play are residential resources too, I thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Renu Jain.
Hello, council members and community members. My name is Dr. Renu Jain. I am a 24-year resident of Cary, a very proud resident. I'm also a 14-year-old volunteer of Habitat for Humanity. I've also been on the Habitat for Humanity Board of Directors for the last 6 years. And also, I'm a very active member of the Hindu Society of our Cary town. So I am speaking for myself, but I'm trying to explain to you that I am representing all of those aspects of my life, of why I call Cary home, and why I believe that affordable housing is absolutely critical for our town to maintain its vibrancy and to support the citizens and the fabric upon which we are all living and breathing. As you've heard, the median house prices are going way too high for the normal people who run this town, the town of Cary employees, our teachers, the nurses, the people who draw your labs, the people who clean up your trash. If they cannot live in the town that they work in, we're seriously looking at a problem. Alliance has proposed an opportunity here where Cary may actually be able to have a small percentage of those homes built by Habitat. And a few things about Habitat which I'd really like to share is Habitat does not give these homes for free. That is a misconception. Those Habitat homeowners qualify for those homes. We assist them with mortgages. And also, those townhomes are sold at the appraised value. They are not brought down in price. The property value of the neighborhoods does not go down. Habitat also believes in the mission of educating those new homeowners. The amount of stability we are giving those people who probably could not afford a home in Cary is tremendous, to have their own place, to own those keys, to build equity, to pass down generational wealth. That's what we want to do for the people who live and breathe in Cary and who want to call Cary home. I also want to point out that even our own town, Cary housing plan, the number one goal is to develop diverse new housing development, to ensure the availability of housing to serve families with limited means, to also pursue regional and nonprofit partnerships to meet those housing needs. Alliance is stepping forward with one of those partnerships by working with Habitat by providing potentially up to 16 townhomes for residents. So with that, I would gratefully appreciate your serious consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Maureen Salchuk.
Hello, my name is Maureen Sawchak, and my family has lived in Cary for 29 years. It's been a wonderful place to live, and as our life stages have changed, we've appreciated new aspects of Cary. We intend to stay here, especially as our adult daughter moved back to Cary after exploring lots of other places in the country and realizing her hometown was pretty great. I appreciate all the work of Town Council and staff to create the Town of Cary Housing Plan. Having a strategy to guide evaluating housing development supports consistent progress. In this case, the proposed Piney Plains development addresses many of the policies of the 2040 Community Plan, as well as the Strategic Initiative for New Housing in the Cary Housing Plan. As the amount of land available for new developments in Cary naturally decreases, it becomes even more important to keep a focus on the overall community needs and priorities. A healthy community needs to provide housing for people at a range of income levels. There are many working families who've been priced out of Cary. We will all benefit from having more affordable and mixed income options so that families can work, live, and play in our wonderful town. I believe adding affordable housing is ethically important as a way to love our neighbors and is pragmatically important to support a healthy workforce and community in Cary. This is a special opportunity with Alliance Residential willing to donate land to Habitat Wake. With land costs increasing across the county, this donation of land will make it feasible for Habitat to add to the over 50 Habitat homes already in Cary. Many of us have firsthand experience with Habitat Wake and appreciate their partnerships with so many other nonprofit organizations and faith communities. Increasing affordable housing is difficult and complex, so when there is an opportunity like this, I hope that the Town Council will support the proposed rezoning and project. Thank you for supporting affordable housing in the past, and I hope you will continue to do so through partnerships with Habitat Wake and other affordable housing developers.
Thank you. Before we continue, how many more speakers?
6.
So I would beg you, please do not repeat. Here's what I've heard so far: affordability, habitat, wildlife, tree canopy, apartment houses, proposed high density by council. Council's not proposing anything. Cary Community Plan, several chapters. Increasing crime, traffic, runoff, flooding, complaints about Morningstar, and council reconsidering. Again, council's not proposing. I'm going to address all of these after we've finished with the public hearing. What I ask you to do is give us that opportunity. Please do not repeat. Next speaker, please.
Melinda King.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council members. First of all, I want to say I should take some notes about how to preach from the crier. Maybe people would not fall asleep. I currently serve as transitional pastor at Cornerstone Presbyterian Church in Cary, and I know that our congregation would certainly supply willing workers should Habitat build on Piney Plains. First, I want to share a personal story. In the late 1990s, my husband and I were living in another county in North Carolina. I was serving my first church, and there was a proposed development near the church. Some of our church members were most upset about it. The development was going to consist of very small homes, and they didn't say it, but I knew they were concerned about who would be living in their backyards. The honest reality was that if my husband and I were to purchase a home, we would be living in those homes. We were from middle-class families, we were English majors, and I had student loans from seminary. So they were kind of scared of us, which I found great irony in. Thankfully, we were given a manse that the church let us use. Anyway, to my script. I surely know that many faith traditions and ethical morality in general recognize the golden rule, the idea that we are to treat others as we wish to be treated. But I speak this evening from the tradition I know, the Judeo-Christian perspective. I seek to be informed and shaped by the scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, and I know that many of you do as well, and they are clear. We must provide help, hope, and wholeness to those who find themselves in helpless, hopeless situations. Listen now for ancient words of wisdom that ring true even today. From Deuteronomy, "Now if there are poor people among you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted. To the contrary, open your hand wide to them. You must generously lend them whatever they need." According to Luke's gospel, when Jesus began his public ministry, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath, and when he stood up to read, he was handed a scroll from Isaiah, and he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor." And then when he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant, he sat down and he said, "This scripture has been fulfilled today in your hearing." He came to bring good news to the poor. Later, when Jesus was asked, "What is the greatest commandment?" he replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." And when Jesus was asked, "Who is my neighbor?" he told a story, the story of the Good Samaritan. And Jesus' answer showed that our neighbors are not simply the people who live in our neighborhoods, but that to be a good neighbor is to be compassionate, caring, kind, and generous, concerned for the welfare of another, particularly another who is in need. According to Matthew, Jesus said this, "Come, you who will receive good things from my Father, inherit the kingdom that was prepared for you. I was hungry, and you gave me food to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me." And the king replied to them, "I assure you that when you have done it for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you have done it for me." In the book of James, we read, "What good is it if people say they have faith, but do nothing to show it? Imagine a brother or sister who is naked and never has enough food to eat. What if one of you says, 'Go in peace, stay warm, have a nice meal'? What good is it if you don't actually give them what their body needs?" In the same way, faith is dead when it does not result in faithful activity. Finally, from 1 John, if someone has material possessions and sees someone in need but refuses to help, how can the love of God dwell in a person like that? So let us not love with words or speech, but with action and truth. You have the opportunity to do something wonderful with the generous gift of land for habitat. You have the gift to do something wonderful, to provide much more affordable housing, which is much needed in Cary, North Carolina, off of Piney Plains. Please do the good and faithful thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Patricia Birch.
I'm sorry, but I can't not speak when our entire supporters have been here to speak. So I'm going to repeat something. Good evening. I'm Patricia Birch, CEO of Habitat for Humanity of Wake County, and I'm here tonight to urge you to support Alliance Residential's rezoning request, which will enable Habitat Wake to build more than a dozen new affordable homes in Cary. As you all know, Cary is a sought-out community with great schools, parks, and resources. People of all incomes should have the opportunity to access what the town of Cary has to offer, not just high earners. We know that communities with a range of incomes offer a safe, healthy living environment for families and improve outcomes for children. The average child care worker, bank teller, medical assistant, and social worker make less than what's needed to afford fair market rent in Cary. We want communities to thrive. We need to expand housing options. If approved, Alliance Residential's request will help Habitat Wake bring more affordable homeownership opportunities to Cary. We have already built more than 50 homes in partnership with the town. This project would add up to 16 more affordable homes, in addition to the market rate housing provided by Alliance, which we also need to increase overall supply and diversity of housing types. Habitat homes are sold at an appraised value and made affordable through financing. The home buyers who would purchase these homes make less than 80% of the area median income and would pay an affordable, low-interest mortgage. We have a long history in this community. In the last 38 years, we've built more than 950 homes in a dozen towns and cities across Wake and Johnston counties. Many of those projects were in direct partnership with municipalities who value sustainable growth and access for residents. As a recent Habitat Wake homebuyer, Mary Stark said, "Homeownership means stability and having more control over my financial future. It means building equity in my home." We believe more people deserve to have the security and wealth building opportunities that affordable homeownership provides. To have a vibrant, sustainable community, we need housing options for everyone. We would be delighted to work with the town and Alliance Residential to bring up to 16 more families the opportunity to live in a place that would otherwise be out of reach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Covington.
Mayor, Council, and Cary staff, my name is Leslie Covington, and I am here today on behalf of the Western Wake Affordable Housing Action Committee. I also have the privilege of being the executive director of the Caring Place, and so I'm going to try to do as the mayor asked and kind of cut through some of this and get down to exactly why I'm here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Caring Place is a 31-year-old Cary nonprofit, and as you may recall, we are a very grateful long-term partner with Cary. And we have been really great at housing provision and making sure that families understand the finances needed to live in and around Cary. This evening, I stand before you, not necessarily as the executive director of the Caring Place, but to share a story. I know that you have a lot to decide when you're considering this kind of development, and I've heard everybody clearly tonight. But I have to make sure that we remember the people, the actual people who we are considering for this kind of housing. And so I really want to share with you a story and help you to understand why the housing, the townhomes that are going to be available are perfect for the families, just like the ones that we serve at the Caring Place. I want to introduce you to Kathy. In 2008, we met her, and she was a single, hardworking mom with two beautiful daughters. At the time, her children were 2 and 11 years old. This Cary mom, she lived right here, came to us making $18.37 an hour at Fidelity Investments. Now, that may have seemed like an okay income for 2018, but not for a mom taking care of her very sick father at the same time as raising her 2 young girls. Trying her best to become and be a good daughter, Kathy took time off from work, just a month, to help her father. And her woes started at that point. She became a part of what we call the sandwich generation, stuck with the cost burden of an aging parent, but also at the same time taking care of dependent children. Kathy's dad's healthcare costs caused her to fall behind in her bills. And when she finally returned to work, she could not play catch up fast enough. She was actually evicted from her home here in Cary, but she found the Caring Place to help her get back on track. At TCP, we help Kathy with everything from understanding and changing her money habits, paying off the debts that she had incurred, and she paid off every single one, saving for her own independent housing, getting her oldest daughter introduced to ballet and other art forms. She still performs to this very day. And she's getting ready to go to college in a year. Helping her with her child care for her 2-year-old, and then helping her as a single mom grow her confidence to seek better employment. And finally, through the help of TCP and our dear partners, Dorcas Ministries, Kathy was hired by Red Hat and promoted as a global human resources coordinator and benefits analyst. This mom went from $38,000 a year to $78,000 a year. And so let's now fast forward to 2024. Kathy is currently an active participant of our graduate program at the Caring Place. And she's been on our board for 3 years now. She earned her professional HR certification, and she helps us to make HR decisions for our nonprofit. She's also a great advocate for other families at the Caring Place. She holds them in check. Kathy is finally stable enough in her career and is now preparing for home ownership, and she's doing that with the Caring Place. She's actually applied for a Habitat home and is working intensely with our TCP staff to become a homeowner. We believe that the homes being developed by the Piney Plains and Habitat Partnership may be the answer to Kathy's family's dreams and the 11 other families that we are currently serving and taking on their homeownership journey. And so, council members and everybody here, as you consider this development, I know that there is a lot to decide, but please remember Kathy, her beautiful daughters, and the other hardworking families that are just like them, and they simply want to live in Cary.
Thank you.
We look forward to
Sorry.
helping as many of them as we can.
I have to interrupt you. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you
It's
so
okay. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Prad Nadi Kuditi.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Prad Natakaduti. I live at 324 Putney Drive in the Wynwood South community. I want to start by thanking the Town Council for your service to the Cary community. My wife, children, and I are proud to be Cary citizens, and we believe in the 2040 Cary Community Plan. In particular, Live Policy 6, which, quote, encourages and supports the provision of affordable housing, is a key pillar of the Cary Community Plan, a pillar that I fully support, and a pillar that I ask this council to uphold when evaluating this rezoning proposal. Let me be clear, I fully support Habitat for Humanity. However, as it stands, this proposal does not meet the goals of the Cary Community Plan Live Policy 6. Let me explain. The proposal effectively contains two halves. One half is an overcrowded assortment of renter-occupied apartment buildings and townhomes containing up to 370 units, equating to an outrageous 24 units per acre, which greatly exceeds the LDO density of 12 units per acre appropriate for a traditional neighborhood. The multifamily housing half, on its own, is completely out of place with the traditional neighborhood zone. The second half is a reasonable suggestion of up to 16 townhomes dedicated to Cary's workforce, which, if fully developed, would equal an appropriate 1 unit per acre. And if the workforce units are sold as owner-occupied, the workforce housing half represents an appropriate and welcome addition to our traditional neighborhood zone. However, as the town staff has noted in its report, and is obvious in looking at this proposal, the developer has provided a full picture about the overcrowded multifamily housing half, and yet the workforce housing half is practically a blank page. A good faith proposal should include at least some details about this affordable housing stock. This proposal does not. And the math of 12 units per acre across the entire proposal only works with the two halves together. This proposal speaks of a maximum of 16 units, but has no commitment on a minimum, meaning the developer could get away with building 0. The developer has provided no phasing plan amongst the construction of these two halves, meaning that the workforce housing half could be postponed indefinitely, which is a real risk with the Transportation Department's highway extension project. Circumstances surrounding the Transportation Department's highway extension, the selection of Habitat Humanity or a workforce builder, or the provision of any low-income financing are not excuses for failing to provide critical details on this portion of the proposal to the Cary community and to the town council, and should not be allowed as excuses to shortcut the evaluation and decision process. So I stand before you today asking the town council to reject this proposal as it stands and to only seek and to require the developer to seek the town's approval only with the following conditions. First, provide a complete picture of the workforce housing half, equal in detail to the multifamily housing half. Second, a phasing condition that requires the developer to build the workforce housing half first, as it is the most critical phase of the plan, as many in the audience have said, and the only phase of the plan that is appropriate for a traditional neighborhood. Third, to ensure that the workforce housing units are owner-occupied, to provide balance with the excessive renter-occupied units in the second half. In conclusion, the emerging vision of the workforce housing in this proposal is encouraging. However, as it stands, the proposal represents a loophole that lets the developer, wide enough for the developer to abandon its commitments to the workforce housing constituency. So I ask the town council, and I ask the champions of affordable housing to hold the developer accountable on meeting Cary's affordable housing goals and ensuring that this vision is no mirage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ann Schumelzer.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Cary Town Council. My name is Ann Schmelzer, and I'm a resident in Wynwood South with my wonderful family. I'm also a nurse and was an essential worker through the whole COVID pandemic. I want to express my sincere gratitude for your dedication to our community. Thank you for all that you do. And I stand before you to voice my concern to the proposed rezoning request. I'd like to focus on the issue of overgrowth, specifically the imbalance between apartments, single-family homes, or townhomes. 10 years ago, when Wynwood South case was presented, the initial proposal of 106 dwelling units was revised multiple times. Why? Because both residents and this council recognized that the density was inappropriately high for the surrounding neighborhoods. The result was a more suitable plan of 43 detached residential units, which averaged to 3.21 dwelling units per acre. The plan was approved in 2015. While the Cary 2040 plan aims for more multifamily housing, we must consider the current market realities. Recent reports paint a concerning picture of apartment vacancy rates in Cary that have reached 18%, while Raleigh sits at 13%. These vacancy rates suggest we're facing an oversupply of apartments. In our immediate area, the numbers are striking. There are 8 existing apartment complexes in the 27518 zip code. There are an additional 10 apartment buildings within a 3-mile radius, and there will be 270 more units being built at 1901 Piney Plains Road, which is 0.1 miles away from this and directly across from this proposed development. In total, we're looking at over 5,190 multifamily units, either in existence or in a development. Given this abundance, do we really need more high-density housing here? In addition, a development with 370 multifamily dwellings and buildings up to 75 feet would be jarringly out of place next to the neighborhoods of Wynwood South, Prestwick, and Wellington. Instead, I propose that we consider this zoning as transitional neighborhood featuring a mix of townhomes and single-family homes. This approach would maintain the character of our community while still allowing for growth. Why is this important? One study found that 80% of the population would prefer to live in a single-family home. A recent Zillow search revealed that only 15 homes under $800,000 were available in the 27518 area. As the triangle grows, shouldn't we provide opportunities for young professionals and families to purchase homes? This would help support and maintain Cary's workforce. In addition, these homes and townhomes could include patio homes, which would allow older residents to age in place gracefully. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Our next speaker is Renee Miller. Ms. Miller has decided to withdraw her comments in order to avoid repeating others.
Thank you.
And that's all.
And if you're here in the audience and have not registered to speak, now's your opportunity to speak, and I beg once again, please do not repeat. When there's no public speaks out.
Hello, thank you for having us and listening to our concerns.
Your name, please?
Oh, I was about to get to that. My name is Asif Khan. I am also a resident of Wynwood South. I think I've probably emailed a few of you, so you guys have probably recognized my name. But I just want to talk about if the proposed rezoning case is actually approved. There's just a number of items that we urge you to consider that are crucial modifications to ensure that the development aligns with Cary's values and long-term vision. First, we propose a transitional zoning approach. Areas adjacent to Wynwood South should be designated for single-family homes and townhomes only, gradually transitioning to multifamily units. We ask that apartment buildings 3 and 4 be relocated further north in the office and industrial zone of the plot. Second, we request height restrictions limiting multifamily units to 50 feet to better blend with surrounding neighborhoods. Third, tree preservation is important. We propose maintaining a tree barrier of at least 50 feet on all sides, preserving native trees. This aligns with Cary's 2040 environmental goals and commitment to increasing tree coverage. A natural tree canopy is vital for reducing urban heat, managing storm runoff, and mitigating noise pollution. Fourth, a comprehensive stormwater management plan will need to be developed. The burden of increased runoff should not fall on existing Wynwood South residents. Fifth, regarding Greenway development, we ask that the developer extend an easement for the Cary Greenway to fully integrate with future extensions. The current proposed Greenway creates a needless dead end, which violates Cary Shape Policy Goal Number 2. We also request that the Greenway be surrounded by trees to maintain a natural environment. 6, we also are proposing a integrated park within the community gathering areas or along the Greenway, which would be accessible to all Cary neighbors and citizens. We think these modifications would help preserve Cary's character while accommodating growth. They align with the town's environmental incentives and commitment to balanced development. Thank you for your time and attention to these important matters.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, council members. My name is Mike McAuliffe. I live in the Wynwood South community as well. You all probably received a very lengthy email from me yesterday, laying out a large number of concerns for this project. I just want to touch on two, as I only have 3 minutes and would never be able to run through that email.
You actually have 5 minutes.
Oh, well, 5 minutes. Still not
Please
enough
don't
time.
take it, but you have 5 minutes.
First concern is that this proposed plan, it really doesn't line up with precedent for the area of the destination center. The tallest building in the entire destination center is the Marriott Hotel. It's 6 stories. These proposed apartments would become the tallest buildings on par with a single hotel in the entire destination center. That's right next to traditional single-family neighborhood. That doesn't make any sense. In addition to that, the precedent for apartments within the destination center is a significant buffer from any traditional housing, meaning a wide road, except for one single location in the entirety of that destination center. That's if you go down Buck Jones Road, take a left on Nottingham Drive. There are apartments that directly connect to a neighborhood. Those apartments were built in the 70s. So the only place in the entire destination center that has multifamily homes directly connected to single-family neighborhood was built in the 70s, 50 years ago. This plan just does not align with the precedent already set within the destination center. Not to mention the extension of Highway 1. That is going to be, again, another natural barrier along with Piney Plains Road from the rest of the destination center. It's essentially putting this plan on an island by itself away from the rest of the destination center using those natural barriers, those wide roads already. So it does not make sense for this level of density, as many have already talked to, density of 24 units per acre when you're actually looking at the apartment portion of this. So I just want to leave that for the precedent that's already been set in the area. The other thing I would like to talk about is really the economics of homeownership here. While yes, I have actually volunteered with Habitat for Humanity, we're talking about 12 to 16 families in those townhomes and 370 in apartments that are for rent. Others have already talked about. It's not really feasible for many Cary residents to rent at current rent prices. An alternative to gaining equity is condominiums. Condominiums come in at much lower costs than traditional housing. Someone mentioned a police officer's salary is $67,000 a year. 30% of that towards housing means you can afford a $260,000 mortgage. Now, if we're looking closer to 80% of AMI, you're looking at someone who can afford a $400,000 mortgage. That can easily buy you a condominium that this project could potentially support 200 families. If you're looking at this for condominiums rather than apartments with 12 townhomes set to the side. There's a lot of opportunity here that just isn't being addressed. This should not be rentals. This should be purchasing for families starting out to gain equity. This can be through condominiums. It can be through smaller townhomes. There's just a lot of opportunity here that's being overlooked, especially given that it's butting up right next to single-family homes and is actually being separated from the destination center. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
And just make an observation.
Could I get you to move a little bit to your left, please? Thank you.
Just making an observation, is that all the people that are here supporting affordable housing, which is a fine thing, and I'm not speaking against it, all but one of them does not live in the neighborhood. They're missing the impact, the traffic, the runoff, all the downsides of this, excuse me, of the apartments. So I just want to make it very clear that what they were arguing for is a noble point for affordable housing and Habitat for Humanity, but they're not focusing on what I thought this meeting would be about the apartments being the wrong size and the wrong type for our area. Thank you.
Tell us your name again.
Rolf Boyst.
Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. First, I want to thank all of our speakers for speaking this evening and thank those who did their best trying not to repeat. That really helps the process. And speaking of the process, I would like to explain the process first. You had a neighborhood meeting years ago. You had another neighborhood meeting. Council's not involved in that. Staff is there to make sure that information that is shared with you is truthful and that if any misinformation is given there, they can correct it. But they're make sure that neighborhood meetings are really what they're intended for. Public hearing is the opportunity for us to hear about what you think about the proposal. And I have to emphasize, this is not our proposal. I got so many emails like they're blaming me for this proposal. I had nothing to do with it. So council does not make proposals. This is a proposal from the applicant. So the applicant is here to hear from you, and they've heard from you, and they're going to hear from me and the rest of the council now about what we think about it, and then they can decide how to move forward. And next step in this process is the Planning and Zoning Board. Now that's an advisory board of citizens. They're not a binding decision board, but they're a board to try to decide, does this really match Cary Community Plan or not? And so they're going to give us their advice of whether or not this matches the Cary Community Plan. And after all of that's done, in several months, it will come back to us, and at that point, we'll make a decision. So now I want to go through what I heard, and please bear with me. I'm going to try to hit all the items, and then I'm going to make my comments. I heard comments about requiring townhomes, single family, restrictions. Everything that's been required is in there. We cannot require them to do anything. We have to evaluate what is proposed. If it was a requirement, it's already done. Am I correct, Ms. Puckett?
Correct, yes.
Yes, okay. So we cannot require anymore. We can ask, and you're going to hear me ask that, and you're going to hear other concerns, but we can't require anymore. I heard a comment about Morningstar. Someone, I think it was a call-in speaker, was not happy with Morningstar. Morningstar has a very good reputation, and I would ask that you work with them. Even if you had a bad experience, let's start over, because good outcomes never come with this going on. It comes with working together. And in the end, you still might not like it, and that's fine. We might not like it, and that's fine. But you're not going to get the best possible outcome without working with Morningstar. Jason Barron's here somewhere, and he's worked with us many times. He knows this, and so he'll reach out to you. Please work with him. Runoff and flooding. Cary has an ordinance that requires them to address 100-year storms. What is a 100-year storm? Good idea. I'm trying to remember how many inches per hour that was, and I can't tell you, but it was probably something like 7, 8 inches in 24 hours or something like that. Yeah, 7, 8 inches. So we got pretty close the other day. I had 5 inches, and I lived less than a mile from this proposal. So that's an issue. And a problem with Wellington, it was created when we didn't have flooding requirements, so homes were built in floodplains. And so there are homes in Wellington and surrounding areas that have flooding issues and are going to continue to have flooding issues. My point is, we have ordinances to make it better, not worse, because without that, it would get worse. Traffic, the bad news for you and me is when that US 1 exit comes, we're going to see more traffic regardless. And added to that, the developer has the right to develop their property, and we can't stop that. And so it's going to be developed, there will be traffic, and there will be more of it. The good news is right now, Piney Plains has capacity. Will it have capacity when everything's built out? I don't know. There was a comment about there'll be more crime with more density. Facts will show, and our police chief is here, that's just not true. Crime in Cary mostly is crime of opportunity. And so if you leave stuff in your seat of your car and you leave your car unlocked, you leave your garage door open, you keep your alarm off, those things are going to invite crime. And that's when you're going to see crime. So that's just not true. Let's see, I've covered all this. Tree canopy. Again, we require what we can require. We have a tree ordinance. I can tell you that the legislature doesn't like our buffers and doesn't like our tree ordinances, and every year we have to protect them. We are trying to build our canopy. Over 50% of Cary is tree canopy. We've hired an urban forester. We love our trees. We want to keep our trees, and we're doing everything we can to do that. However, a developer has a right to develop their property, and if trees are in the way, we really can't say, you can't develop your property, there's a tree there. But they do have to mitigate that. And affordability and the habitat speakers, I have to tell you that I love the idea of ownership. I can tell you, growing up in poverty myself, that you don't build any type of equity or wealth renting. I never built any type of equity and wealth until I owned something. So I applaud Habitat for coming here and giving that opportunity. I want to see more, and I'm going to get to my comments in a minute. Actually, those are, we're seeing a lot of growth in the area as far as density. I want to remind everyone that it has to follow the Cary Community Plan, which is what we're trying to decide, and that's where the growth comes from. And Cary Community Plan was created by Cary citizens, not us. We just approved it after it came to us and we heard all the things that should go in it. And it was approved in 2017. We have draft being worked on now with updates, and that's going to come out soon, and we will comply with that plan. But that's what determines, that with the market determines what is built and the type of growth that you have. Okay, I think I addressed all my, and I'll let council member address other things that they've heard. And now I want to make my comments to the applicant about what I saw. Honestly, I agreed with staff 100%. I think you should go single family to townhomes to multifamily. I think the townhomes have got to go all the way across next to single family to help with the transition. I like the way the site is set up. If you look at the map that staff had with the destination center on one side and the traditional on the other side, I don't see a compelling reason yet to change that. And so I would like to keep that map exactly the way it is, and I think it should be complied with. Vertical mix, I would like to see that. We expect that in a destination center. I want to see a vertical mix, and I didn't see that. And I apologize, I have one eye right now, so I'm still trying to use my one eye. So to summarize my comments for the applicant to get my support, I think I need to see a compelling reason to change the Cary Community Plan, because we do have a destination portion of it. We do have a traditional neighborhood portion of it. I do love the affordable housing aspect of it. And I think this can be a win-win. I am worried about the density and the height. I've asked in past proposals that they float a balloon. I kind of would like to see that again, where the multifamily is going to go with the maximum height allowed. What is that going to look like with a single family, regardless if they have townhomes or not? I want to see what that's going to look like, see how imposing that is. Anyway, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, and I know my colleagues have a lot they want to say, so who wants to go next?
Does Jack want to go?
Jack, it's your district, and you
Well,
live a mile from there too. So.
I live closer than you.
Yeah.
So. One that walks in the fluorescent yellow T-shirt, so you'll see me around Stevens Road and all that. So I'm not going to repeat everything you said. I think that I'm looking out for the transition area. I'm intrigued. I know it's more a site plan issue. I'm intrigued about putting the road through that Putney Road, I think it's called. And what I've learned over time at other places, it's actually helped the situation, not hurt the situation. So that's a little bit of a surprise. 20 years ago, I would have said, don't let that connect. That pass-through would be a problem. But putting the rotary in and looking at the use in that area, I think and that's kind of getting way ahead. But if we're going to move forward, I thought that was some pretty creative thinking at that level. But it still gets back to density and transition. And I'd like to think that we can move a little bit of some of that around where we might not have it quite as dense as we get into that single family. One of the things I was hoping is that the little blue signs and the little red circle signs at the end would like shake hands and say, I love you. But I think a lot of the blue signs went away. Anyhow, the thing is great. I actually think we could do more, especially as we get, where that entrance is to one and coming in. And the point that really hit home, listening to the applicant, was the fact that life is really going to change there when that's done. I mean, it really is. But you made a good point, Mayor, that Piney Plains does have the capacity, and we've gone through similar arguments on the other side with Tryon Villas and all that, with the density. We did have some improvement there, and so that development on the other side is being done. I think we went through this with Wynwood. That originally started as something much more dense and then became what it is today, Wynwood. So I'd like to see, I'm going to stay focused on transition, especially as it abuts Wellington and it abuts Wynwood. So that's where my focus is. You've said all the other things. I don't want to really repeat it, but
I like you not repeating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I kind of wish some of those signs would have thought of that.
Other comments?
I have
Yes.
comments, yeah, and they're different comments, although I
Okay,
will
good.
say that I agree with you on the transition, for sure. There's a couple elements here. Ms. Puckett, in the staff report, there is an image that shows the future off-ramp and on-ramp and how close it comes to the developable area. Do you have a slide that shows that?
We have one that shows the general area. So this just doesn't have the detail of the project shown as it did on that NCDOT image, but this is the footprint of that project.
What's the timeline on this, by the way? I forgot that.
I don't have that information directly in
Seemed
front
like
of
I
me.
heard
but
that somewhere, like they're going to construction in 2027 or something like that. Does that sound right?
I'll double
would know
check our
that?
staff report. We might have had some very general estimate.
This is the concern, the first concern that I have. The condition in the staff report that has been submitted says the 200-foot buffer off of the existing Route 1. But that basically is negated by the fact that you have this new on-ramp and off-ramp being built here. And as a result, there is the potential for there to be a much smaller buffer between the roadway, the right-of-way, and then these homes. And it's hard for me to understand what that is based on what's on the staff report, and then especially with this image with the purple drawing. And what I would prefer to have is some type of assurance about how much buffer there will be and whether they'll be undisturbed between the NCDOT right-of-way and these homes. So I would love it if the applicant submitted something that said 100-foot undisturbed buffer between the NCDOT right-of-way and any type of development. That could be a parking lot or it could be a building. I wouldn't want to see, sometimes they say in a building, but then that leaves it open to have it taken down for a parking lot, and then you lose your buffer. And one of the speakers talked about the importance of having a tree buffer for noise cancellation, and I really think there's a lot of merit to that. So the other statement I would like to say about this is when we build affordable housing, and I think it was Ruth Merkel who said about the same specifications and regulations, we want to do the same for affordable housing that we would do for market rate housing. We want it to have the same high standards. We don't want to lower our standards so that people who move into this community have impacts that they wouldn't have if they lived in market rate housing. So I'd ask that we consider all of the things that we would do for a premier neighborhood. We would make sure that the greenway connects. We wouldn't have a stub that goes to it. We would make sure that there's adequate buffer. There's many other things, and so I would just like us to take that under consideration. One of the tricky things about doing a rezoning is that sometimes there are ideas and transactions that are introduced, and they're introduced as fact, but they cannot be attached to the rezoning request, because what we're being asked is to specifically decide land use. And so the fact that Habitat has been in contact with this applicant is not something that we can actually take into consideration, because we can't say, oh, and Habitat will own this land and then be a broker to families that have the opportunity to buy. All we can say is that these will be affordable units. So I want to make sure that's really clear with the audience, that it's not a guarantee that it's Habitat. Should they have, a difference of opinions, Habitat and the applicant could turn around and go, oh, it's not going to be Habitat, it's going to be somebody else. So I want that to be well understood. And with that, I think the speaker who talked about the fact that there is no minimum in here, that's a really excellent point. If we're talking about having affordable housing and we say this is the right thing for this area, we should say that there's a minimum number so that plans don't change. The other thing is everybody who said the word condo, I'm 100% with you. I love condos. We don't have enough condos in this community. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can specify whether multifamily is a condo versus rental. And I don't know how to get over this hump, because we've talked about it here. We strongly believe that condos are an important solution. There's no real solution, but it's a quiver, blah, blah, blah. There is an opportunity to address affordability. We can't figure out how to get the development community to build more condos. We've talked an idea that we've been floating around, because I know Carissa's very passionate about the idea of an entry point for affordability, and I'm sorry I'm speaking for you, but this is something that Carissa talks about. We've entertained ideas. How can we assist in this so that developers will want to build condos? And if anybody has those ideas, I'm welcome to listen to it. Of course, everybody else is. But I would love this project if I was seeing the apartment buildings with multifamily lower, and if they were condos, I'd be all over this project. I'd be like, yeah, this is a fantastic project. So those are the points that I'm seeing. I would love the applicant to come back with renderings. Then by the time this goes to our planning and zoning board, renderings that show the on-ramp and exit ramp. Or is that what you call it, exit ramp and on-ramp? I'm not sure which is which here on this drawing, but I think it's the exit ramp is closest to the neighborhood. I'd like to see those illustrated. I'd like to see a condition that talks about a 100-foot buffer off of that.
And Councilmember Robinson, just to circle back on your question about that, it looks like design build is estimated for 2027 for that project. So to your point, it is quite far out and could impact this.
Yeah, I mean, 2027 is here before we know it. I mean, that's,
It's going to take that long to get through the process?
Exactly. So, there's a parking lot on the north side of this that will clearly be in the view shed. That is not really our Cary standard. We want to have it to be attractive for the people who live there, and we want it to be attractive for the people who are coming off that ramp and going into Cary, and they're seeing it for the first time, and it should be attractive. So this is something I'm very passionate about, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I have a mix of comments and questions. I'll do the questions first. Currently, this is zoned O&I,
Correct, yes.
So today, someone could purchase the land and put office and institutional.
Yes.
So is this considered a down zone from O&I, from a traffic perspective, from a height perspective? Like tomorrow, they wouldn't even have to come to council, right? They can go and build the office building and have way more traffic. What does that look like if I lived in the neighborhood next to it?
When you say what does it look like, do you Well, mean for the traffic. office or for traffic? So as far as traffic is concerned, it's very difficult to estimate because the existing zoning of the site is essentially wide open. There's no size cap or use cap, so a variety of O&I offices at a variety of sizes could go there. But just for comparison, so I guess the bottom line is it's likely that that trip generation would exceed what it would be with this project.
So a third more during?
Could be
the day?
substantially more. Our transportation staff, our excellent transportation staff, ran some quick numbers and said anything in excess of about a 50 to 75,000 square foot office would already sort of be at the trip gen for this project. So anything beyond that will be in excess
And this
of
is a
those
pretty
trips.
large property, so it could be
It could be very
250,000
large,
square
yes.
foot office, which could be 3-4 times the amount of traffic than this.
Correct.
proposal.
And medical office is substantially higher even than professional office. So if we're starting to get into medical office, that almost certainly would be a much higher trip generation.
And the height associated with an O&I there?
So the height, they would be limited. It's 35 feet. If they're within, I believe it's 100 feet of a residential district, they can go up to 50 if they're beyond that distance. So even within this site, they might be able to sort of transition in
Transition up,
height.
So it could get to this.
Could go up to
similar height, if
50.
not higher.
Similar height, yes.
To go up to 50, but not 75.
They still get the one-to-one sort of additional setback. So things in the rear of the site potentially could go up higher.
It could, yeah, for every foot passed, they can go up a foot, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
they could even potentially exceed that
Yeah.
50 feet in some areas.
Okay, so the current zoning, I think we possibly did a disservice to our citizens, because when you look at the future growth framework, half of it's in the traditional, but the other half, the northern half of it, is in the destination center. So if you look at the future growth framework, I mean, if you drew a map, if you drew a line on the picture that you have, most of the apartments are actually in the destination. Buildings 1, 2, part of 3. Oh, look at that. So that doesn't match very much the, what's in the staff report, just so you know. That picture that you're showing is not as close. Oh, tell me, where's the arrowed line? Is that where the line is for the
Staff report, I think the one in the staff report was not quite as clear, as was pointed out to me before I made this presentation. So now it is more so.
Okay, so it's not me, it's the.
It's the graphic, I
It's the graphic.
apologize.
Okay, so, you know, I think we might have done a disservice because people assume that this whole land is in the traditional neighborhood, and it's just not. It's just not. Okay, so a couple comments. Those were my questions. I'm not going to repeat any of the ones that I agreed with, which is the Greenway, right? I think there's some things that can be done better. But I want to reiterate Councilmember Robinson's point, is that we give more specificity on single-family homes and townhomes than what we currently see for the habitat portion. Like, I don't see a community gathering space. I see one for the apartment area, but the likelihood that people are going to leave the townhome area to go over to the apartment community gathering space, I just think that our habitat friends deserve a community gathering space for the townhomes. I think we need to focus on, rather than just saying, oh, that's habitat, so let's let them do it. I'm concerned about that. I think we need to add that specificity. I also would love to see that. I think in our heads, we think townhomes is owner occupied. But I will tell you, Amberley has a significant number of those townhomes that are rentals, all purchased by multiple investment companies, right? So you can't assume, not only can we not actually litigate it or ordinance it, but we can't assume that when we say townhomes, right, it's going to be owner occupied, just like we speak about it here. That's not something also we're allowed to do at this table. So I personally like the idea of having the townhomes there. I feel like, could townhomes be a better transition where the buildings 6, 7, 8 are, 5, 6, 7, 8, Yeah, I think that townhomes would be great there. I don't know if that's something that the applicant would be willing to do, but I think that offers the transition that we're all talking about at the table. Also, I am absolutely concerned, not just with the transition and the buffer, but I'm very concerned about the ability to safely cross. This is connection to a destination center. We need to have to take this picture and pull it out a bit and make sure that we're thinking not just at this 10,000-foot level, but a little bit higher to see how people are going to get to the destination center safely, whether it's on bike or car or walking. And I don't see that here. I'm very concerned about having that traffic exit with people going 55 miles an hour off of an exit. I don't want them coming anywhere close to that area. Look, I don't know if that means there should be a culvert under the DOT line. I think that would be awesome, right? It keeps people off of the main road. But I think we might need to think adaptively and differently about how to get people to connect to that destination center.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
I totally agree with Lori. Can we make some kind of comment from the town to NCDOT requesting that they identify a place for like a tunnel or culvert underneath the on-ramp and off-ramp going northbound? Because it's going to be an impediment if people have to try to go up when these cars are coming off.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be an extremely dangerous situation. And, that, you know, we've seen it done in other places, and this is the time to do it rather than trying to retrofit it someday in the future.
I know our transportation folks meet regularly with NCDOT, so we can let them know that that's been a request.
Okay, thank you.
We also feel like this whole area is going to change and shift, right? This, you know, we've heard, we know the South Hills Mall just across the street, right across the highway street, right? We've heard rumors about Crossroads looking at ways to reinvigorate itself. People are going to want to walk and be mobile, and we need to think about that before that change occurs.
Plus, we have isn't our Greenway map showing that we were going to go in that area? So they're intruding on our plan. So in that case, they should honor it and, you know, accommodate.
You tell them.
Yeah, all right.
No,
I do
she's gonna
like,
tell 'em.
I'm also curious, is the entrance from Piney Plains, is that a right in, right out?
I
That's
can.
not where the light is. The light
is
Warren
at Stevens and
is on
Piney
Stevens.
Plains, so yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. You mean that fork in the road is only going to become more treacherous with all the traffic, right? With everyone exiting, and I wouldn't want any more cars, right, trying to cross in front of it. I think I applaud the applicant for working on a warrant for Stevens Road, and I do think that it's likely that people from Putney Drive might actually take that route. You know, I'll always go for the light. Any opportunity, I'll go for the light. But that also means we need a safe ingress and egress for bicycles at the light, because they're going to want to take the light as well. So I think there is opportunity for this to get better. You know, I'll say it just so I can be the first one to say it. I'd love to see it from 5% affordable to some larger number and for less than 80%. Because when you look at 80% AMI anymore, that's at the top end of what, you know, what folks are making. We really need to come down to 60%. I'm thankful that the applicant has put in 30-year. That is the industry standard for an affordable housing, but I'd love it to be less. I'd love less in an AMI and more in units. I love the idea. I know I wasn't going to duplicate, but I love the idea of a minimum. I can't think of any time when we've talked about a minimum before with townhomes, but I think that gives people a good feeling about, you know, the fact that they came to support affordable housing, and there's going to be at least 12. I have to tell you, I'm looking at that and giving the requirement of more community gathering space. I'm not sure how you would fit 16 on here, but I am not an architect, so I'm not even going to begin to talk about land use plan, but I think that adding, you know, that minimum is a great idea, and so thank you to the to the resident who came up with that, I better watch out for my job because that was a really good idea. I think that's it. Those were all my questions and comments.
Who wants to go next?
I've got lots of questions as usual, but they're mixed in with some comments, and so I'm just kind of going to go in order based off of what my thoughts were. But I want to clarify, because I'm having difficulty seeing the transition problem that other people are seeing. So I want to understand, buildings 5, 6, 7, and 8, those are limited to 35 feet, yes?
Correct, yes.
And they're adjacent to townhomes.
They are adjacent to single-family lots in the Wynwood South
So in
development.
Putney, those Putney Drive residences are not townhomes.
No, those are just very narrow detached lots. They do somewhat look like townhome lots from this parcel.
How dense is, that's what I was
Yeah, we were
pointing to
looking-
Lori, and I was like, what are those? Are they very, very close together? Or is, you know, I think I leaned over and said, what's a patio home, by the way,
Yeah.
right?
Are they the same density as townhomes? They're just not specified as townhomes?
No, they are slightly lower density than townhomes. It's really narrow detached lots. So
Okay.
Wynwood South is about 3.2 units per acre, where our townhome, our townhome TR district would allow you to go up to 6. So it's about half the
Okay.
density.
Thank you.
And I make that comment simply because the lower height near what appears to be, you know, fairly dense housing seems like a reasonable transition to me this close. This is right on the edge of a destination center. You know, I think I, as usual, need to drive over there and take a look at it myself so I can get kind of a better, I always like it when the mayor and others suggest a balloon test, because we get a flat, you know, visual here. We don't get the topography either. So, you know, a hill being there or any kind of incline or whatever, that would make, in my opinion, you know, kind of shifts a little bit when I can see the topography and how things lie. But I wanted to ask if, and I got that one, sorry. Who manages community meetings? Does the town manage that process, or is that managed by the applicant?
The required neighborhood meeting is hosted by the town, and we attend and provide an overview of the rezoning process and are there to answer process questions. It's really the applicant's meeting to answer questions, provide an overview as they see fit. And then any follow-up to that initial neighborhood meeting is really voluntary on the part of the applicant. In this case, because it had been so long, we did encourage them that would be a good idea.
Okay.
And they did.
So they're voluntarily doing that additional meeting?
Yes.
And maybe aren't terribly good at it, but, right, but they're doing it. So how long between when this was initially, like the initial public hearing and when this was started and when that hearing, that was February of this year?
February of this year. The original neighborhood meeting was in January 2020, so about 4 years prior.
About 4 years, so quite a bit. How many units are planned in this development across the street that I heard community members referring to?
I will need to pull that information and get back to you. I believe it's over 300.
Okay, so that's another significant development, and that's within the destination center.
It is. That's part of the Dellinger PDD, which was a mixed-use project within the destination center that was approved several years ago.
Thank you. And when was this designated a destination center? What I'm looking for is an idea of, in relation to the folks that are there in the single-family homes, when was this designated as a destination center?
So that would have been with adoption of the Cary Community Plan in early 2017. And I believe that Wellington Park absolutely preceded that. The Wynwood South, the neighborhood, is a little bit newer. I would have to double check the date in relation to the Cary Community Plan.
Thank you, thank you. And is it legal? I just want to, I'm writing questions over here to Lori. Is it legal, for ears perked up, to specify whether land is developed as rental or?
It is not.
For sale. Okay, so we absolutely cannot
Right.
coax, say please, you know, maybe gee whiz, I could say out loud, gee whiz, I sure do wish people would build some condos, and even see maybe we could incentivize that, maybe.
Is there
But-
anything like a development agreement or anything like that?
Yeah, there would be other ways outside of zoning, potentially, but within the zoning context, there are court cases that say we can't mandate, rental versus ownership.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. I mean, and it's helpful. I've asked that question before, but it still, it gets kind of fuzzy with me, and I know a lot of folks, they're not experts in zoning. I'm not an expert necessarily either. One of the slides, I think it was slide 19, says SCM walls, maybe maximum 10 feet in height. What's an SCM wall?
Stormwater control measure.
Thank you.
I apologize for the acronym.
Oh, that's perfectly okay. And Mr. Barron referred to the environmentally sensitive area on this, in this land, and I heard several folks, the speakers that came to talk about their concerns. Is there wetland here?
There are significant stream buffers and possibly jurisdictional features such as wetlands on this site. If you'll see the area that's side of this image, it's all in that darker green color. It also overlaps with the highway corridor buffer and some other required buffers, but that's essentially all environmental areas.
So the NCDOT is building an off-ramp in an environmentally sensitive area?
That's correct.
Yes.
They don't have to mitigate it, do they?
They do.
Oh, they
They
do?
do.
In the past, they didn't.
No, they've got to mitigate for any wetland or stream impacts that they have, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
How about this end?
Would potential stormwater mitigation that they may do on this piece of land potentially help surrounding areas?
Yes, so because they have to mitigate, they can't exceed the pre-construction current runoff rates. So the runoff that's happening today would stay the same or improve with development of this site.
So, and not to repeat everything that's been said, I guess my points would be that I also support adding minimum number of affordable townhomes to the proposal, and also concerns about the breaks in the greenway. I believe Aaron said that the PDP would not meet the Cary community plan with the breaks in the, so those would be my comments.
So I'm last one here. I have a
Don't
lot of
repeat anything.
responsibility on myself right now, but I have to say that I kind of agree with every comment here, especially related to transition. I have similar questions as Councilwoman Con Johnson about transition with 5, 6, 7, 8. I would like to see something so that it gives me a little bit more visual understanding of how the transition is going to be with homes on Whitney Drive. I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem Robinson about buffer, getting a little bit more understanding. I do see in some pictures I could, some slides I could see visually that, at least on this slide, it looks like, it appears that the greenway is going to be very close to the ramp. So, that could be a risk, like what are we doing about that and things like that. So, I also want to say that, excellent point. I didn't even think about it, about the minimum requirement and the details, and I think that's point taken well. I would like to get some more details. I would like to get some understanding of what is the plan with those townhomes. I do understand that Habitat for Humanity, as Dr. Jane mentioned, it's not just giving away homes, building homes and giving away homes, but they help with providing loan. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but providing loan to qualified buyers and then selling the house at assessed value. So I think that's a great addition. I feel like, I'm a very, very big believer of creating affordability and wealth through ownership. And I understand that we cannot enforce the applicant or any builder to provide condos, right? Or like, but then I feel like it's something that, Cary should really think about. How do we build those units that can be owned? There was a comment about, and this is a question, there was a comment about the height of the building, I believe building number 1 and 2, and it was compared against the hotel in the destination center. Like, what is the difference, do you know, between the height of these buildings compared to what's in destination center? Is it true that these are going to be higher than those buildings?
It would probably be comparable to some of the hotels that are currently in that destination center. So a 75-foot height cap could potentially be about 6 stories. So yes, that could be comparable to some of the nearby hotels.
And that's part of Cary Community Plan. Is that allowed? Or
In a destination center, those areas do support roughly 3 to 7 stories. So taller buildings in the correct location can be supported.
Okay. I think that's all that I have. I also want to just kind of a comment and observation. I noticed that you guys were holding sign, vote no. The good news is we're not voting today. Good news is you get an opportunity to work with the applicant. And I hope that, I hope to see more collaboration. I hope the applicant could actually take some feedback and incorporate in the information in the project plan. And I hope that, we all, like the mayor mentioned, I hope we can work together, because I feel that's a win-win for the residents and for the applicant. Thank you.
Anything else? So this is going to our advisory board next in a month or two. But that's not the end of your opportunity to communicate with us. You can communicate with us by coming to every meeting you want to and speaking at Public Speaks Out if you would like. Or you can send us emails. The best way to get information about what's going on is through this lady here, Erin Puckett. She will be working with the applicant. She will have the latest and greatest before I do. So if you have questions about, hey, what's going on with this, anything change, she would know. But if you don't remember that, feel free to email me. I'll contact her. So I want to again thank you for coming out, and please stay involved in the process as it continues on. So thank you, Ms. Puckett.
Thank you, Your Worship.
5.
Is that 5 times?
5. 1 for Aaron.
That was great.
That's awesome.
That was pretty unexpected.
Okay, our first discussion item for Green Level Church Road was pulled from the agenda, so we have one discussion item left, and that's the adoption of ordinance to change in method of election, and our attorney, Lisa Glover, will present the item, and council may take action.
Thank you, Mayor. I cannot do the worship thing. I'm sorry. I can't do it. On April 25th, you all directed staff to begin the process to change Cary's method of election, and tonight is the 3rd step in that process. So this slide is a reminder that municipal governing boards can be elected using one of these 4 methods that's outlined in state law, and Cary has used the election and runoff method since the year 2000. And we have been discussing since April changing it to the plurality method, which we believe would result in significant cost savings and may lessen voter confusion around the date of the election. So as we've talked about, changing the method of election is a multi-step process. On June 27th, you adopted the resolution of intent to change the method. We advertised a public hearing and held that on July 25th. We had no written comments and no speakers for that hearing. And tonight you can take the next step, which is adopting an ordinance that codifies the change. This is your final step in the process, unless you wanted to call for a citizen referendum on the change. And citizens also have to petition for a referendum on the change. If no referendum is called, then this change in the method of election would become effective for the 2025 election cycle. If a referendum is called, it's possible it could be placed on the ballot for this November, along with our bond referendum questions. But depending on the timing, that vote may have to get pushed to 2025, which means the change in method of election wouldn't happen until 2027. So, with all that information, staff's recommendation is to adopt the ordinance and make it effective immediately without calling for a referendum. Again, remembering that citizens still have the option to petition for a referendum if they'd like. They have 30 days, approximately 30 days from today, we have to publish a notice of the ordinance adoption, and then from the date that notice is published, they would have 30 days to petition. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Or if we're ready, a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance amending Cary's charter to change the method of election to be plurality method, and forego a, what was it? Referendum, with the change to be effective immediately upon adoption.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
No, you go ahead, Jack.
No, in my naive way of thinking, I had hoped that we might have a little bit more citizen comment, and I thought there might be a lot of energy around a referendum. I didn't see that happen. I'm just personally disappointed in that. Just saying that for the sake of saying that.
I appreciate that, though, Jack.
So I'm just leave it at that.
I'll just say that for those of us who were here and involved when there were 6 and 8 people in a race, and we went to a system where we had a runoff, it was because we were having people prevailing that with a small number of votes.
30-40%.
Yeah,
Right.
so we thought that was the best way. It's harder. It's way harder on the candidates to go through that system than anyone else. I mean, even more than like confusion with citizens or whatever. So it's with reluctance that I support the nonpartisan plurality method, but I know that it will save the town quite a bit of money. And I just hope that we don't find ourselves back in the same position where we have, campaigns where one person's winning with 25% of the vote.
I agree with you.
It's a really good, it's a really good point, and as folks that have gone through runoffs before, and, many here at the table have actually been through runoffs, it is a challenge, and at the same time, I'm with you. I don't want to see 10 people on a ballot and one person winning with 11%, because I don't think, in my mind, that really is what citizens want. And being fiduciarily, aware is also, those are both challenges at the same time.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly where you come from.
Other comments? We have
I'll just share the perspective, though, that I also don't think it's, healthy voter participation to have elections that regularly have 7 to 11% voter turnout, because even with a runoff, you still have a very insignificant number of eligible voters choosing their representation on council. So that's what helps me feel a little better about this. I do wish, I do believe the runoff method is the better method, but in order to move to November, we do have to change to the plurality method, right? I think that's unfortunate, but I do believe that increasing the number of engaged voters in our elections and saving money, being cheap, is paramount. So I just want to, I understand that this is a big change, and I'm with Jack. I can't believe nobody really reacted, pro or con.
No emails.
And with a few people that I've had a conversation with, I said, well, we'll save a good bit of money. They went, okay. Right, so I think that's also reflective of their satisfaction with a lot of the folks that have been doing a good job on council for a long time. I think it's a really positive thing that there wasn't a fear reaction, right? That it's been a long enough that people have forgotten a dysfunctional council. Probably shouldn't have said that, but nobody's listening now.
That's fair.
Right?
Let's take a vote.
Other comments? We have a motion to approve staff recommendation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That concludes our business for this evening. I declare the meeting adjourned.